Welcome to what a second location might look like if you were abducted by a serial killer. I don't know if you know this, but tattoos are forever. People get them for all kinds of reasons. They can have cultural significance, personal importance, like memorializing a loved one, maybe for memento-like reminders to avenge your murdered wife, or they can just be completely meaningless, like a cool mummy wearing sunglasses or a cartoon duck smoking a cigarette for some reason. More on that later. Tattoo culture is fascinating. Tattoos in general are just cool. For decades now, they've been a symbol of cool, like Wayfarer sunglasses or leather jackets. When I think of tattoos, I think of old World War II sailors with a faded panther on their forearm, or bikers from the 60s and 70s rocking a Grim Reaper chest piece. I personally prefer American traditional tattoos, also known as Sailor Jerry or old school. Tattooing has obviously been around long before Norman Sailor Jerry Collins popularized American traditional in the 20s and 30s, and I also really love indigenous markings like Maori Moko tattoos for their deep-rooted cultural significance. Beyond their meaning, there's something especially satisfying about making pearl-clutching conservative prudes feel uncomfortable just by sporting one. This is probably because for a long time, tattoos have been a symbol of the counterculture, but I would argue that when you have entire cultures taking part in the practice over thousands of years across the world, is it really counter to culture? Or just modern puritanical Western culture? Siberian nomads, indigenous Polynesians, Nubians, and native South Americans, as well as Greek, Celtic, Scandinavian, and many Arabic cultures have all used the art of tattooing in religious, ceremonial, and communal ways. Tattoos have sometimes been used as protective wards against malevolent spirits or bad luck. Sometimes they're symbols denoting rank or position within a culture, or just as a documentation of a person's achievements throughout their life. Roughly 32% of Americans alone have at least one tattoo, and 80% of the population find tattoos have become more acceptable in society, so not really counterculture. Tattoos can also, unfortunately, be complicated. They don't always depict positive, good-natured cultures and can represent hate, bigotry, and exclusion. You've got prison tattoos and white power tattoos, where Nazi skinheads have repurposed and appropriated pagan, Norse, and Greek symbols like Viking runes or the Celtic cross to signal their affiliation with white nationalist groups. Hell, they might just get the Totenkopf's death's head the SS used, or a giant swastika or three. As someone who grew up in the punk scene, I've seen and heard plenty of stories of people accidentally getting a motif tattoo that turned out to be something controversial. The context and wearer of a tattoo is important though. Many actual Scandinavian people, for example, have Norse symbols who are not neo-Nazis, so tattoos are sometimes risky depending on where you live and what your ancestry is, or who you might bump into at the 7-Eleven. Back in the day, I had tattooer friends who would tell me about how their, let's call them peers, would beat the shit out of anyone they came across that had a white power or Nazi tattoo, so because tattooing is considered a fringe culture by mainstream society, particularly the elite upper class, it tends to embrace its insular nature in response and can be very guarded. I mean, any art form will always have the odd know-it-all gatekeeper who thinks they know what's best for the medium and see themselves as a taste maker with the authority to deem something good or bad. Tattoo artists, just like music snobs and self-proclaimed cinephiles, can be some of the most insufferable people on the planet.
For like the 20-year-old dudes, stop getting neck and face and hand tattoos when you have no other tattoos on your entire body. You earn your fucking stripes around here, period. So looking out for your well-being is not gatekeeping tattoos.
A couple of things. He says you have to earn your stripes in order to be worthy of face, neck, and hand tattoos, which is just a weird way to phrase the point he's trying to make. I don't know why he's so hostile and condescending, because there are some legitimately good points against your first tattoo being on your face besides earning your stripes. The obvious being perception, especially if you're young, and how it might ostracize or be used to discriminate against you, particularly when you're trying to get a job pretty much anywhere. The second is that they fucking hurt, and you might not be prepared for the pain unless able to finish the piece if you start on a sensitive area like your trachea. There are also ethical reasons a tattoo artist might try to talk you out of starting in such a visible area, but to be a complete asshole about it is not the way to go. And yes, it's their body, their choice, but I think it's a little more nuanced than that when you're paying a stranger to alter your body. People are overconfident about their decisions all the time. Beyond that, People are known to have full-on meltdowns about not getting enough barbecue sauce at McDonald's, so do you really think they won't demand a refund and be a whiny little asshole when they realize they've made a huge mistake in getting a demon tattooed on their neck? You think they're gonna accept that maybe they are the ones at fault for pressuring a tattoo artist into marking them for life and not then project or deflect or call the Better Business Bureau? Of course they will. Other times it's clients or just the general public overreacting to an artist's preference or their disdain for customers who get cliche lion and clock tattoos or use numbing cream.
How do you feel if your client uses numbing cream for their tattoo appointment?
I don't mind at all. Just know it's going to wear off and that at some point you will feel the pain.
I don't love it. It does sort of change the skin a little bit and it can affect the way color heals in particular. So not my favorite thing, but I've never stopped anyone from using it if they really want to.
Not very happy, especially if they don't tell me, because usually I don't really like tattooed people with numbing cream. It tends to make people bleed more.
I don't care. If it makes you sit still and not twitch like an idiot, go for it.
Tattoo artists really hate their clients, huh? Tattoo artists always seem to have a problem with the job they chose, lol. Why do most tattoo artists give off such red flag energy? Am I going crazy? None of what any of these tattooers said was all that out of line or negative, and they all had valid reasons for why they don't like customers using numbing cream. The last guy basically said, whatever.
I don't care.
And then you have comments like this. I get an uneasy vibe from them, which just further stigmatizes people with tattoos and tattoo artists and the industry and art form as a whole. The company made a follow-up video offering several reasons as to why tattooers don't like numbing cream. The tattooer they interview says that some people can have a skin reaction to the cream.
You know, I had this one guy who came in all wrapped up, ready to go, and then we took off the cling wrap. His skin was all blistered and red. Had to cancel the whole session just because he got a reaction to the numbing cream.
He also says how numbing cream affects the healing process of the tattoo and how it can make them look washed out and dull, which sucks if you're paying hundreds or thousands of dollars. It not only affects the finished product, but the process as well, where the stencil doesn't hold and your skin becomes watery.
It makes the skin really watery. It's not as nice to work with when you're tattooing. The skin just feels weird, and on top of that, your stencil starts rubbing off a lot faster than what it would if you didn't use it.
And as someone in the previous video pointed out, it wears off pretty quick. If you're getting a tattoo that you think requires numbing cream, it's probably not gonna be a little finger tattoo and gonna be a pretty long process, especially if there's shading. We're talking hours, not minutes here.
Finally, and I think this might be the worst reason for using numbing cream, is that when it wears out, it actually hurts more than if you had not used it at all. And a lot of people end up tapping out pretty much as soon as the numbing cream wears out, whereas they would have probably sat for longer if they didn't even use the numbing cream and just cop the pain from the start.
His last point makes a lot of sense to me, somebody that has a bunch of tattoos. Depending on where the tattoo is, it's gonna hurt a lot. And I can see how just raw dogging it might actually acclimate your body over time to the pain you're going to experience at the 2 or 3 hour mark, especially once you finish and they wipe it down, which to me is the worst part, just dragging dry paper towels across what is essentially a million open wounds on your skin. You gradually ease into the pain rather than it hitting you all at once the numbing cream wears off, because you just might go into shock depending on its location. I'm not gonna show you videos of the really extreme cases because it verges on body horror and might be disturbing to some viewers, but basically what happens is your pain receptors go into overdrive, which signals to your brain to release adrenaline and cortisol, which raises your heart rate, induces perspiration, anxiety, stress, and hypertension, which presents as feeling shaky, dizzy, nauseous, fatigued, and other fever-like symptoms. This is colloquially referred to as tattoo flu, but it's shock. Your body's going into shock. Your immune system thinks you're in danger and tries to fight off what it thinks is an infection. I've personally experienced this when I got my calf and inner bicep tattooed. I felt lightheaded, like I was high, but not in a fun way. Now, I can't make this video without talking about the TJ Maxx tattoo woman who got absolutely ratioed on TikTok. Before I show you the video, for fear that you might just be biased, I want to summarize the underlying point she was attempting to make and failing at spectacularly. Once you see and hear her opening thesis, it's kind of hard to take her seriously. Basically, she applied to TJ Maxx and was outright denied, which is pretty common for almost everyone right now, regardless of what kind of job you're applying for. You submit a resume, fill out the little form that makes you input your resume all over again, only to receive a clearly automated rejection the next day. She goes on to sympathize with younger people seeking first-time employment and how hard it must be for those with zero work experience to get even just a retail or service job, which, you know, yeah, not anything unreasonable, right?
So I went in today and I was like, so what was the reason I didn't get hired? And she was like, oh, like you just like don't have enough experience. There was candidates that had like more experience than you. You know, I asked her if it was about my tattoos. She said that wasn't the reason. I don't feel like that's true, but whatever, I'll leave it at that. I'm just wondering how like teenagers and young adults who haven't had a job before, how are they supposed to get employed if these places are only hiring people with experience? Younger people just can't get a job because they haven't worked enough. I mean, I do okay with money as is, so I didn't like need the job, but I would have liked it to have made some extra money so I could pay off my debt.
As you can see, she got rejected because of her tattoos. Obviously. Should she have? Probably not, but companies tend to hire based on not just ability and experience, but whether you're a good fit for the brand. That could mean any number of things, but when you think of TJ Maxx, what comes into your head? A bunch of goth metalheads with demon neck tattoos and snakebite lip piercings wearing little polos and name tags? Probably not. It's just not the brand's identity. Why she even went out for that job and not a retail brand that was more alternative is beyond me when Dolls Kill and Hot Topic exist for the demographic she is clearly a part of, and she would have fit right in there. That video has almost 10 million views and only 192,000 likes and 82,000 comments, most of which are things like, "You scare the kids," "I want to be this delusional," and "Is the confusion in the room with us?" Toward the end of the video, she does go on about how she hates that her tattoos are used to essentially discriminate against her in some ways, and says that she knows very smart, hardworking people with tattoos, which, like, what? No one was debating that point, and it's anecdotal to the situation that comes across as just really defiant and defensive and ignorant.
I hate that my tattoos are such a defining factor for me getting a job or not. Like, just because I have tattoos doesn't mean I'm not gonna be a good worker. Like, I do not understand that at all, because quite literally some of the most smart, intelligent people I've ever met are people with tattoos and piercings. I could be wrong, but I've seen that like in Europe, like people with tattoos and piercings can get jobs like way easier there. So why is America not hopped on the bandwagon?
She could have brushed it off and expressed some humility, admitting that she should have maybe thought about the tattoo argument she thought she was making, or not even mention it at all. Did she? Nope. She made a follow-up video where she just doubled down.
You guys missed the point of that video entirely. I don't need that job at TJ Maxx. I make plenty of money. If I didn't make enough money, I would not be able to afford a Dodge Challenger that has a almost $500 monthly payment. I have thousands of dollars worth of artwork on my body. I have $7,000 breast implants, and I have about $3,000 of filler in my face. I posted that video because I knew I was gonna get exactly those kind of reactions. And there's people saying, oh, it's because of your satanic tattoos. So if it is about my satanic tattoos, that's religious discrimination, which it's illegal to discriminate against someone based off of their religious beliefs.
It's like she's trying to break the world record for how many logical fallacies you can shove into a single TikTok. My favorite being talking about her $3,000 breast implants.
$7,000 breast implants.
And to be completely frank, she probably didn't get the job because she has a shitty, condescending attitude, not because of the way she looks. If this is her response to the public when she poorly communicates a genuine concern or question about what it's like trying to get a job nowadays, I'd hate to see how she communicates in a work environment with paying customers and coworkers. Before I do the tattoo reveal that I filmed for this, I want to say I don't want to scare anyone or fearmonger by any means, but there are very real side effects and drawbacks to having tattoos, like getting an infection or having lifelong regret. Oops. I got my first tattoo when I was 18 or 19, and almost 20 years later, I can confidently and truthfully say, I wish I didn't have any anymore. Some of the reasons I feel this way now are because at the time, I didn't know anything about tattoos, really, or different art styles I maybe would have liked more, or the culture itself. I had some friends who were tattooing when I got my first ones, but they were probably only a few years older than me and not exactly masters of the art form yet. So with that being said, I'm not going to tell anyone not to get one because it's just such a personal thing. Some people just know themselves better than others when they get tattoos and genuinely love them. Others maybe just convince themselves over time that they like their tattoos when maybe deep down they don't. And still, some people change a lot over time and wish someone had told them to wait before getting that tramp stamp. Plus, trends change, techniques improve, and new styles emerge. It's an ever-evolving landscape, and you have to reconcile with that in a lot of ways, which can be hard with something that's so permanent. Honestly, maybe just order some Inkbox semi-permanent ones first, and don't listen to people who shit on that company or wanting to try it out before doing something that's forever. Those people are annoying assholes, and you should ignore them. So I've made a lot of mistakes with my tattoos, and I want to start with some of the first tattoos that I ever got, which would be the very first one is this one that's on my arm. I'll get a close-up of this, and it says, "We drink to die, we drink tonight." Now this is in like, I don't know, 2000, God, how old was I? 2012, something like that. I was really into a band called Beirut. If anybody remembers, around the early 2010s, the freak folk scene. It was like this weird bohemian like second coming, and I was really into the whole thing. It's embarrassing. I had a baritone ukulele, but there was a lyric in one of his songs, and that's what this is. So that's why I got that. I thought it was kind of self-deprecating because at the time I was drunk all the time. My entire sleeve was done mostly by one person in Chico when I was living there. But this is what I'm talking about when I said I made mistakes when I got tattoos, because I didn't go in and have like original art made from an artist that I really liked. It was like friends that were tattooers. And so I would just like see stuff in books or on like album covers and I would get those. This one, which is Cthulhu, whatever, playing an accordion, and this is by an artist that did all of Ockerville River's album art for a really long time, and I was like, I know a little bit about Cthulhu, that's cool, and it's kind of quirky, he's playing an accordion. Unfortunately, it was a black and white piece, and my friend who was the artist did not decide to add color or any kind of border to it, so it just kind of ends on the sides. And it feels super unfinished, and it's been that way for like 15 years now. I think actually before I got that one, I got this zombie one, which again was cover art for a book, World War Z. Me, as well as many other like hardcore punk people at the time, went through a big horror phase, and my thing was zombies. I had a friend who his entire leg was like Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers and like Bride of Frankenstein on just in one leg. So I think every hardcore punk and like rockabilly people, they always end up with this weird fascination with horror movies. This was like the big one where it was an actual tattoo artist that knew what they were doing, not just like a friend. And then everything else on my arm is just kind of a blur because it happened kind of all around the same time. A friend of mine at the time, we got matching tattoos, Joy Division tattoos, which I don't know if you know what this pattern is, but it's like the sound a dying star makes or something. And it's the cover, again, more cover art. And my friend did this, and when I showed him what I wanted, he wanted to kill me. At the same time, I also did actually have him do this. This was something that he did. This is a cat sugar skull. I thought it would be funny to get, and interesting to get like a sugar skull, but in the shape of a cat. And it's got the flower, it's got marigolds, which were my mom's favorite flower, and then her favorite color, which was purple. So this is kind of in dedication to her. And I do actually have her name on my wrist. Again, this is like a panel in the Watchmen book. It's Athena. And then Brood, that was like an inside joke I actually got way longer when I was living in San Francisco. I had this big empty space for a really long time, and I just picked some flash, and I saw some flash of a sperm whale, which was like kind of cool. And it was around the time where I finally learned what like traditional tattoos were and was paying attention to like different art styles. But again, because I'm so quirky, I thought it would be funny to do a narwhal. I mean, I think narwhals are cool, but I really should have just done the normal sperm whale, because I kind of hate the shape of this. Specifically, its tusk, which is actually its molar that grows through its fucking head. You know, some of these other ones I got later, like I got a moth to fill in this big empty weird spot. This is probably my favorite, which is funny because it's the smallest one, is a little takeout box. It's just a few lines, and I like that one probably the most. I guess I should talk about how much all of these hurt. This inside tattoo hurt so bad, and it was probably like my third or fourth tattoo. That was brutal. I was not prepared for that. The inside of your arm, avoid it as much as possible. Also, the ditch in your elbow right here, that's what that's called. This all sucks. I kind of avoided it in a few spots, but I remember this hurting really bad and it kind of blew out. Honestly, everything else, outside of the bicep, outside of the forearm, inside of the forearm, it was all pretty fine. I don't remember feeling like I was going into shock. This one, I definitely felt like that. I got like a flop sweat. It felt like if you did this and just pinched, but everywhere. That sucked. This sucked really bad. This skin is like tender as it is, even when you're not getting it tattooed. Also, knees I hear are really bad. Tops of your thighs I hear are really bad. I don't have any of those. I would like thigh tattoos if I was gonna keep doing this. I got the chest script. I did it. I'm a cliche. And again, obviously, it is song lyrics. These are Converge song lyrics that say "Keep Shining On." I was debating, it was between this and "You Fail Me," which is the name of the record that the song this is from is on. And I'm really glad I didn't get "You Fail Me" in giant script on my chest for all time, because brutal. I did want to get this done at one point, but chest pieces are expensive and I have always been broke. I mean, I could probably afford to get one now, but do I really want to? I mean, maybe just to even this out, because this alone, I'm not going to take my shirt off for you guys, but this alone just seems so sad. Oh, I have a buffalo. I can't remember what ear it's behind. It might be my left ear. If I can get video of it, I'll show you. Another one I got was my inner lip. I don't know what this looks like. I haven't looked at it in forever, but it says legit. And it was like, again, like that fad. Everybody in like a week all got lip tattoos for some reason. We just thought it was really fun and stupid. And they're quick, but they don't always last. They usually fall out pretty quick. As far as I know, mine is still in there. I had friends that got theirs in like 2 weeks or a month later. It was like basically gone. You couldn't see what was in there anymore. All right, the leg tattoos. Sometimes in tattooing, this is what's referred to as a party leg. One leg where you just kind of throw all the dumb shit that you don't want on display all the time. It's your party leg. And mine did not start out like that, but it very quickly turned into that. The big one that I have is a dagger on my calf, and it says "Death is a Companion," and it's got like a little skull. This was something that a friend actually did design. He came up with this. I'm not super into the design all that much, but you know, your friends are giving you discounts on tattoos, and they're basically using your body as practice. So what was I gonna do? The line, "Death is a Companion," that is from one of my favorite books, the Golden Compass series. They say it, I think, in like the third book somewhere. And then I kind of just was like, and the dagger is what's the dagger called in that book? It's my favorite book, my favorite series, and I can't remember what the name of the dagger is. I gotta Google this. The Subtle Knife. I was like, well, this line, I like this line from the Amber Spyglass, and you're gonna do a dagger, which I wanted a dagger, and I'll just say that this is my version of the Subtle Knife. It's so stupid. It's got a fucking skull on it. This also hurt like crazy. This is the one that probably, I mean, this probably hurt worse than this, only because it's bigger, and because I was getting like, I was sweating, I was getting not nauseous, but I was getting like shivery and kind of shaky, I remember, and like tired. You get really fatigued. This was like being punched by tiny fists over and over again. And then when I moved to San Francisco, I met another friend who was apprenticing at a shop here and learned that I could get like $40 tattoos. So he started just like blasting my leg. I think he did this snake that's coming out of some flowers that's all totally blown out and basically a big black blob now. And then the one I really like that he did is the tiger, because I did want a tiger tattoo really bad. The unfortunate thing is that it's kind of surrounded by a bunch of junk. Like I've got like weird stick and pokes, an upside down peace sign that was done with a machine but with bad ink. So it looks constantly bruised. This other stick and poke that I did on myself when I was drunk one night with a bunch of friends who are also doing stick and pokes, and it's just a slice of pizza that says taco underneath it. And then the last one he did was the Grim Reaper smoking a pipe, which I also really like, but I just don't like the placement. And then I had another friend who had a tattoo machine, and I'm not gonna name him because it's kind of taboo to do that. If tattooers find out, they will no longer be your friend or potentially apprentice you if you're trying to actually get into tattooing. So this friend had a tattoo machine, and he did I think he did a couple in a night. He did this duck that's smoking a cigarette that says pay in advance. He did one of my other favorite ones, the mummy with sunglasses. He did this skull with a cleaver in its head. And then I think at a later time he did the railroad spikes. Oh, and then I forgot I got these. I have down on above my ankles, like on the front of my ankles, it says Cruel World, which was also done by the other friend who was actually apprenticing, which I do really like those ones too. So those are my tattoos. You know, I don't want to say I regret them, but I regret them. I regret some of them, mainly just because I didn't plan anything out. I didn't know anything about tattooing. I didn't know like what the taboos were, or what you could and couldn't do, or what you should or shouldn't do. It wasn't like a scene that I was ever really invested in at the time. I appreciate it more now, 20 years later. Yeah, man, if I could just like, you know, snap my fingers and have all of these gone, if for nothing other than to start with a clean slate, or to just sort of move some of these around, you know, specifically my arm. There's a bunch of weird gaps that like, you don't think about these things when you're first getting tattooed, right? You don't think about like, well, okay, if I do that and then I do this thing here, that's gonna leave a weird gap, because that's what you end up focusing on. You end up focusing on all the weird stuff where lines don't connect because they were done by two different people. It's just like these awkward little things. And, you know, I have a list of like tiny little line work items that I think I could do to fill these gaps in to make them look better, but it's like, if I'd thought about it before and been like, I want to do this and this and this and this and this wouldn't be a problem. And I do like patchwork, you know, sleeves and legs and things like that. But this stuff that I did is not a cohesive, like, design language. It's all over the place, which is what bothers me. It's annoying. It is what it is. Oh, I have 2 hand tattoos too, which I'm not going to tell you. I mean, this is about cameras, but this is a personal one. I just wish I'd thought about it more and planned it out. Tattoos are cool. I like tattoos. It's not that I don't like them, and I like that other people like them. I'm not saying that nobody should get tattoos and they're all, you're gonna fucking regret all of them. You're not gonna regret all of them. I don't regret all of them. I mean, I especially really like that I have my mom's name, you know, especially since now she's passed, and I actually have 2, you know, to remind me of her, and that's really great. And, you know, I have other tattoos that are meaningful, make me think of people that, you know, I was in relationships with, or with friends who changed me or had a huge impact on me. Like, those are great. And then also, you know, a mummy with sunglasses. There are some silly ones that I really like, and there's some actual meaningful ones I really like, but there's some that I've definitely outgrown. So don't do what I did. Think about it a little bit more. Was this interesting? Do people give a shit what my tattoos are? All right, back to me. So what have we learned? Tattoos can have a lot of meaning and be great little footnotes of your life you can look back on. Marking your body in memorial to a person, place, or thing is a very powerful act. The dedication and follow through to do that to yourself is monumental. But like I said, people change, and you don't know if you will until it's happening or already happened. If I had $1 for every person I knew who got their straight edge or vegan tattoos covered up, not 5 years later, I'd probably only have like $23 but that's still a lot and should be a cautionary tale to anyone on the fence. And on a more serious note, just look at stories of recovered neo-Nazis getting cover-ups or laser removal of white supremacist tattoos after deprogramming from that belief system. Marking yourself is highly risky, regardless of your socio-political beliefs. This isn't meant to discount how they can also be empowering and make a person feel more connected to their past or their culture. And tattoos don't even necessarily have to mean anything. Sometimes you find meaning in them after you get one, and that's beautiful too. But make sure you do more research than having Big Jim tattoo some album art on your forearm just because he has a tattoo machine in his garage that probably looks a lot like this one. Also, that reminds me, stop calling them tattoo guns. There's an obvious stigma with the word gun, and it's just not accurate. Tattooing is a precision art form, and it implies a lack of control, like they're spraying bullets at a client from a Tommy gun. Plus, you'll just annoy your already annoyed artist if you do. Look at as much art from as many different artists and styles as possible. Listen to what people's experiences getting tattooed were like, and start small, not on your hands. And maybe somewhere that won't be visible 24 hours a day, not on your lower back. I know I haven't really given you a yes, do it, or no, don't, which some people might be expecting, but I just can't make that judgment for you. I can only speak to my own experiences and feelings about tattoos as a 37-year-old who has more tattoos than the average person, but not a full-on Yakuza suit. I mean, it's kind of wild to me that you can get a tattoo at 18 or younger if your parents co-sign, and yet you can't rent a fucking car until you're 25. Even if that is the law, I truly do not believe anyone under 25 has developed enough of their frontal lobe to make good decisions about whether getting a narwhal or inner lip tattoo is a great idea. I certainly wasn't. That's the video. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it this far, that means you're special, and you should like and share and subscribe, and comment for that engagement. I would really appreciate it. I hope you guys liked this. It was basically just an excuse for me to show my tattoos. I've seen other creators do like tattoo reveal videos, and this was an excuse to be able to do something a little quicker and easier to try and get ahead of my content release schedule. If you didn't like it, keep it to yourself. How's that? Go follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all the stuff. My usernames will be up on the screen in a minute. Until next time, vanish.